Everyone knows the name Nikola Tesla, the man who lit up the world, the man who gave us alternating current, the radio, the remote control, the blueprint for wireless energy. A mind so far ahead of his time that we are still catching up to his ideas today. But here is what nobody talks about. Tesla died alone, in a hotel room, broke, talking to pigeons. And the most heartbreaking part, he saw it coming, every single step of the way. Nikola Tesla was born in 1856 in Croatia during a lightning storm. His mother, an inventor in her own right, stayed up all night memorizing poems and designing small household tools she would never patent. Tesla always said he got his memory from her. He could recite entire books, visualize complete machines in his mind, before touching a single component. By the time he was a young engineer in Budapest, he was already solving problems that senior colleagues could not see yet. When he arrived in America in 1884, he had 4 cents in his pocket, a poem he had written, and a letter of introduction to Thomas Edison. That letter said, and I am paraphrasing, "I know 2 great men. You are one of them. The other is this young man standing before you." Edison barely looked up. What followed was one of the greatest professional betrayals in scientific history. Tesla worked for Edison, 18-hour days, redesigning Edison's inefficient DC motors. Edison promised him $50,000 if he succeeded. He succeeded. Edison laughed, told him he did not understand American humor. Tesla walked out and spent the next several years digging ditches to survive. The greatest electrical mind of the century. Digging ditches because a famous man thought a joke was worth more than a promise. Then came Westinghouse and the War of Currents. Tesla's alternating current against Edison's direct current. Tesla won, scientifically, comprehensively, and publicly. The 1893 World's Fair in Chicago was lit entirely by Tesla's AC system. Millions of people stood beneath electric light for the first time in their lives and gasped. Tesla was at the peak of his powers. And then he did something almost nobody does at the peak of their powers. He tore up his royalty contract with Westinghouse. Westinghouse was struggling financially. Tesla walked into his office, took his royalty agreement off the desk, ripped it in half, and said he owed him too much to hold him to it. He gave away what would have been hundreds of millions of dollars because he believed the work was more important than the money. He was right about the work. He was catastrophically wrong about the money. By the early 1900s, Tesla was chasing his biggest dream. Wardenclyffe Tower, a structure on Long Island designed to transmit free wireless energy to the entire planet. Not sell it. Give it. Free electricity for every human being on Earth. J.P. Morgan was funding it, until the day Morgan asked a simple question. Where do we put the meter? Tesla had no answer, because there was no meter. That was the whole point. Morgan pulled the funding. The tower was never completed. It was demolished in 1917 and sold for scrap to pay Tesla's hotel debts. Tesla stood on the shoreline and watched it come down. The last decade of his life is almost unbearable to read about. He lived in a series of increasingly cheap New York hotel rooms, running up bills he could never pay. His patents had expired. His ideas were being used by companies that owed him nothing legally and everything morally. He ate alone every night, always at the same table, always the same meal. He developed obsessive rituals around the number 3. He could not stand the sight of round objects. He refused to shake hands. And every afternoon, he walked to Bryant Park to feed the pigeons. There was one in particular, a white female pigeon with gray wingtips. He visited her every day for years. When she fell ill, he brought her back to his hotel room and nursed her. He later said, and these are his actual words, I've been feeding pigeons for years, thousands of them. But there was one pigeon, a beautiful bird, pure white with light gray tips on its wings. That pigeon was the joy of my life. She died in his arms one night. He said when she died, something went out of his life, that he knew his life's work was finished. Nikola Tesla died on January 7th, 1943, alone. In room 3327 of the New Yorker Hotel. He was 86 years old. The maid found him 2 days later. He had no wife, no children, no fortune. A man whose ideas powered the modern world, dazzled the crowned heads of Europe, and stood before crowds of thousands, died with nothing but a pigeon's feather and a stack of unpaid bills. Here is my perspective. Tesla was not destroyed by failure. He was destroyed by caring too much about the wrong things and not enough about protecting himself. He gave away his royalties because he valued loyalty. He chased free energy because he valued humanity. He spent his last years talking to a pigeon because she was the only relationship in his life that asked nothing of him in return. The saddest part is not that the world forgot him while he was alive. It is that he always knew exactly what he was worth, and he gave it all away anyway.